Well, you know what they say about friction? It's a drag. Welcome to a video where I'm just going to walk you through the problem-solving process involving friction and all of its weird quirks in a typical force problem. So to start out, I'm going to really just introduce you to the equation that dominates this whole part of the forces unit. And to start out, we've got to take a look at the coefficient of friction. It's denoted by the Greek letter mu, as shown right here. And whether it has an S or a K in its subscript is really just distinguishing between whether this is static friction, meaning the two surfaces in contact are not moving with respect to each other, like this, or kinetic friction, the K, which means that the two surfaces are moving relative to each other. So they're sliding across each other, usually. This coefficient is really just a fraction, so it's not really it really doesn't have a unit attached to it. Instead, it's typically just a value between 0 and 1, as you see from this table down here, that's really a measure of how frictiony these two surfaces are. So like rubber on asphalt for a race car would be a really high coefficient of friction. There's a lot of grip with those two surfaces in contact. A really low coefficient of friction would be something like an oiled shoe on ice. I don't know why you'd end up in that situation, but it sounds pretty perilous. So avoid that at all costs. So this coefficient, the way that you get it, is typically by dividing the friction force acting on an object, which is usually pretty measurable, by the normal force between those two surfaces. And depending on the orientation, the normal force really here is just a matter of how much these two objects are being pressed against each other. So if you're pressing an object really hard against a wall, that's your normal force, that's Fn. If it's just the force from the table on an object, as you typically find in a physics problem, that's the normal force. Whatever the case, the normal force is a direct influence on friction if you were to rearrange this. With all that out of the way, I'm going to remember this or keep this equation in mind for later, and I'm going to jump over to the problem so that we can try this out for realsies. All right, and so to start out, we've got a leather-bound book, which is one of our two surfaces, and it's got a mass of 2 kilograms. So we're given the mass, which is pretty nice. And it's on a horizontal oak surface that's being pushed by a force as shown here. And always, to start out, we're going to draw a free body diagram before we do anything else. So over here, we can first start by saying, well, what is one force that absolutely has to be acting on this object at all times? And hopefully, in your mind, you probably said gravity. Always, always, always straight down. And the force due to gravity, it can also be calculated quite quickly. So if you just say that it's the mass of the object times the acceleration due to gravity, if you're feeling like being a lazy bones like me, you can then say it's going to be the mass, which is 2 kilograms, times the acceleration due to gravity, which is normally 9.8, but I'm going to make it 10, so the math is easier. And so that means our force due to gravity here is going to be about 20 newtons total. All right, that's a very usable number. The next thing is the normal force, which we need to draw on here. Now, the reason we need a normal force is because otherwise, right now, this book could very well be being pushed through the table. There's really nothing to stop it. So the table is usually the thing that stops those sorts of events from occurring. So in order to do that, I'm going to draw a little normal force here with a purple arrow. All right. Now, we don't know what that normal force is yet, so we're just going to leave it as that for now. The next thing is the friction force, which is really the star of the show here. Now, friction is a drag, right? So it's always a contrarian. It's going to oppose the motion of an object. So like this, if this object's being pushed kind of upward and to the right, well, the rightward motion is probably the thing to look at here, because we're going to assume this book isn't levitating off of the table. So if the book is just being pushed across the surface horizontally, we can assume then that from this applied force, it's probably being pushed to the right. And so if this book's motion is to the right, then friction has got to be opposing that to the left. So we'll go that way. And because we don't know whether this thing is moving or not yet, we're going to just make that a general leftward friction force. We don't know if it's static or kinetic yet. Lastly, we have a force at an angle here, and anytime you see a force at an angle, you should immediately jump to just solving for the components, because this force is a no-go. We need something more useful. So over here in blue, I'm going to draw the components, horizontal and vertical, so that it's in line with the rest of our forces, which are up, down, left, right. All right, then I'm going to label that maybe Fy and Fx. And we could just say this is like applied force, Fa or something. And then over here, I'm going to solve for the components. So we're going to say, well, Fx is the adjacent side to the angle. So that's going to be Fa times cosine of theta, because cosine is adjacent over hypotenuse. So it's going to be 20 times cosine of 30 degrees, which is roughly 17 newtons if you were to run that through a calculator. Okay, and now with Fy, it's really the same thing. So we'll say Fy is equal to Fa times sine of theta, because that's the opposite over the hypotenuse. And so it's going to be 20 times sine of 30. And anytime something is multiplied by the sine of 30, you can really just divide it by 2, because sine of 30 is 1/2. So this is going to be about 10 newtons. All right, and once you have those components, you can pretty much just throw the original vector, the 20 newtons, like in the trash. It's worthless at this point. You really want everything in the same like up, down, left, right direction. Okay, so now we can actually get down to business. So we've got our components, we've got our free body diagram, so that's part A done. And that's really the most important part of this problem. Having all this set up is going to do you a lot of favors. So with part B, I'm going to do that down here. It's asking us to find the normal force, Fn. So we'll just establish that as our goal. And to do this, we need to think about the direction that Fn is in, because obviously the horizontal is not really going to help us much if it has nothing to do with the normal force yet. So normal force is in the vertical direction, so that's the one we're going to focus on. And in that situation, we want to think about whether this direction is accelerating or not. So we're going to say that the sum of the forces in the y direction, we're setting up Newton's second law here, is equal to, well, it's not levitating and it's not crashing through the table. Generally, if it's sliding horizontally, that means that its vertical acceleration is 0. So all we really need to do in the vertical direction is add all the forces together and then move them around. So in the vertical direction, we have an upward normal force, so we're going to make that positive. So we'll say Fn, all right, plus, let's see, we'll do Fy next. So Fy is moving upwards in this case, so we can just add that directly. So we're going to add a positive 10 Newton force upwards, plus a negative 20 Newton force downwards. And all of that together is going to add up to 0. So now if we get Fn by itself to solve for it, the normal force acting on this book is going to equal about 10 newtons total. And now that makes sense because we're, in the context of this problem, we're lifting it up slightly off of the table. So really you're doing the table a solid here by, alleviating some of the work that the table has to do to keep the book stationary there. You're doing some of the effort now. So you're kind of splitting the load with the table. And the same goes for if you're like pushing the book into the table. If you're pushing the book into the table, now you're causing the table to have to do more work to keep the book there. So normal force does not always equal gravity. And I really recommend that when you're finding normal force, you tread lightly because there can be some wrenches that get thrown into the mix every now and then. So now part C is asking us to find the two frictions, the max static friction and the kinetic friction. So Fs max, the max static friction, well, we're rearranging the original equations from the beginning of the video slightly. It's going to be static friction coefficient times normal force, so us times Fn. And so our static friction force for this combination, leather and oak, well, if you look back at the beginning of the video, you can find those from the table, but this first one is about 0.61. And the normal force, we already calculated, it's 10 newtons. So then our maximum static friction force that we need is about, say, 6.1 newtons. And then kinetic friction, by comparison, is the same thing, just with the coefficient of kinetic friction. So it's going to be mu k times Fn. And over here, our coefficient is about 0.52. And again, we're going to multiply that by our 10 Newton force, normal force. And so that's going to equal about 5.2 newtons. So that's part C done. And now part D is really just asking the important question here. Does the book move? And this is down to whether or not we've broken static friction. So keep in mind with Fx, which is really the direction that matters for breaking friction, because that's where it's acting, that's where they're adding up. Keep in mind that Fx is 17 newtons. So it's quite a bit larger than either of these two forces. So really just looking at static friction off the bat, if we're assuming this book isn't moving to start with, then 17 newtons is more than enough to break static friction. Just from that alone, yes, the book does move. And the reason for that is because, Fx is quite a bit larger than static friction. From there, we have a choose your own adventure, and we want to move on to part F. So I'm going to end the problem on that. So in part F, it's asking what is the acceleration if it does move. And this is where we're going to transition into the kinetic friction. So the force of kinetic friction is 5.2 newtons. So we're going to switch gears into the horizontal direction now. So again, if you're thinking about the motion of an object, or you're thinking about how forces are interacting or adding up, you should just start out with Newton's second law. So we're going to say the force, or the sum of all the forces in the x direction, must equal, well, we know this book is moving in that direction, so we're going to say it's equal to the book's mass times its acceleration, which we're solving for. Okay? And then from there, we need to add all of our horizontal forces together. So the x component of our applied force is 17 newtons. So adding that together, we're going to do 17 newtons to the right, plus kinetic friction to the left, which is in the negative direction. So it's going to be negative 5.2 newtons. And all of that together, it's got to equal a mass of 2 kilograms times this book's acceleration in the x direction in particular. And now I'll trust you to run the math on that so you can verify my answer here. But once you do your calculations for this, you should end up finding that the x acceleration of this book is about 5.9 meters per second squared, which is awfully fast for a leather book on some oak. So I would be a little concerned that we may be heating up the oak a little bit too much, and it's definitely going to ruin the book, that's for sure. So not a very good book owner. Whatever the case, rapidly accelerating books aside, that is a complete friction problem. And really, it doesn't get much crazier than that. You could maybe ask, like, what is the minimum force to get something moving or something? But really, it all boils down to whether the forces outweigh maximum static friction or not. Now, there is a quirk that we did not show in this problem, which is that if it does not fully exceed the static friction force, so like if we had an applied force of maybe 3 newtons or something, then it's important to keep in mind that the book isn't going to move if we don't exceed static friction. So in a situation like that, down here, the sum of the forces in the x direction are going to equal 0 because it's not accelerating, it's not moving. So in that situation, the acceleration is 0. So the friction force that we'd plug into this equation here has to equal just whatever force we're applying. In other words, static friction is adjustable up to the maximum point. So it really just needs to apply as much as it needs to keep this object from moving. That's really the only other quirk that wasn't focused on here. But besides that, I hope this video helped, and I will catch you on the next one. Peace.